So on both sides, we were studying here the Tosfos on Daf Samachet Samid Beis. That's where it's printed. Dibra Masechet Katan. And let's just review. V'im Tomar uminole dahai Katan memona. Where does the Katan have mammon? We're looking to see if the Katan has Yarshim to inherit his mammon. So it means that, let's say, Ruvain was the victim of Gzela, Shimon was the Gazlan, and Ruvain died, and now Shimon is going to pay the compensation. It's now a Karen Nechovish because he took a shvua, etc. But once Shimon admits and confesses the crime of Gzela, then he pays it to the Yarshim. But the Gemara says if Ruvain, the victim of this Gzela, is a Katan, then he pays it to then the Gazlan pays the Kohen because there are no Yarshim. So the Gemara says that a Katan can't be molid, so he has no Yarshim. So there's no one to inherit that money. And therefore the Gazlan is not going to pay to the actual victim who's gone, but rather to the Kohen. So now the question is, okay, you're talking about the fact that there's no Yoresh to the Katan, but you're obviously assuming that the Katan owns possessions that were stolen by the Gazlan, by Shimon. And Tos says, how does the Katan have mammon? I'm reading Beperek Misha Meis, Ein Zechil the Katan. A Katan cannot acquire ownership. And apparently that means any Katan, no matter how mature he might be. Oh, but maybe a gadol through the pash of Zechia acquired ownership of an object on behalf of this Katan. So the Katan was the beneficiary of an act of Zechia by a gadol. So basically what happens now is the following. You have Ruvain is the Katan, and let's call him Levi owns a bushel of wheat, and Levi says to Shimon, so both Levi and Shimon are Gdolim, Shimon, you acquire ownership in this bushel of wheat on behalf of Ruvain, who's the Katan. And now Shimon becomes a self-appointed shliach of Ruvain. So this is very good because we have now Levi who's makneh the bushel of wheat. And now Shimon does the kinyan on behalf of a Katan, and Shimon is doing the kinyan. So he's effectuating the kinyan, and he's a gadol. The problem is, says Tosfos, ha'ikal aman liyomer b'perek Misha Meis, zachin legadol v'ein zachin lekatan. V'afilu aman liyomer zachin lekatan haynu midrabanan v'lo midaraisa. So we have a machlokas about whether or not you can be zoch on behalf of Katan. One man the Yomer says straight out, Ein Zochel Katan. The other man the Yomer says that the Rabbanon validated and recognized this Zechiyah for a Katan. But it's not a Doraisa. And now we're dealing with a Parsha in the Torah. How are we going to interpret this Parsha in the Torah if on a Doraisa level, no one would maintain that this Zechiyah Katan? And the logic for that is because the Zechiyah mitor shlichus, kidemuchach beperkamid above mitzia, yamin chatzim mishum yadis rabboy v'lo gar mishlichus, a Katan labar shlichus. So again, just to summarize, I mean, at one level, this Tosfos is pretty straightforward, pretty simple. And that is that you need a bar das in order to effectuate a kinyan. A katan is not a bar das, therefore he cannot effectuate a kinyan. And if you're going to say, says Tosfos, that, all right, let somebody else be zoch on behalf of the katan, and that's called zoch li'olam shalom b'fanav, that's not going to help you at all, because the chi is mitam shlichus, and a katan is a la bar shlichus. Now, what does it mean a katan is a la bar shlichus? Tosfos is taking a very extreme position here, namely that a katan is mufka, completely excluded from shlichus. It could be that there is shlichus for a katan. When we say a katan can't have shlichus, means he can't appoint a shliach. But in zchiyah, there's no need to appoint a shliach. But Tosfos says no. What it means, ain't shlichus a katan, means that a katan cannot have a shliach, even if he doesn't have to appoint a shliach, because through zchiyah we can circumvent the minui shlichus, but nevertheless, katan is mufka. Now, Tosfos proves this from a Gemara Bava Metzia daf Yudamid Beis. The Gemara says, "Chatza mishum yadis rabboy v'lo gar mishlichus." Now, is there any minui shlichus in the case of chatzer? Obviously not. Nobody appointed the chatzer as a shliach. But there is some sort of chalos din shlichus with regard to a chatzer, even without minui. And yet, the Gemara Bava Metzia establishes that a katan cannot have a chatzer. Because why? Because chatzes mishum yad v'lo gar mishlichus. So if you're applying shlichus to the katan, it means to the chatzer, then it means that even though there was no need for minui of the chatzer as a shliach, it's automatic, and that's called mishum yad, boy. A katan cannot be kohen through a chatzer, because a katan cannot have shlichus. It doesn't just mean that a katan cannot appoint a shliach. In the case of chatzer, you don't have to appoint the chatzer as a shliach. But a chatzer is not effective to establish and effectuate a kinyan on behalf of katan, because a katan must be mufka legamre from shlichus. The entire entity of shlichus is inapplicable to a katan. And it's not just the problem that a katan can't be mamana shliach, if he can't appoint a shliach, a katan can't have a shliach. But mostly you see the difference between the two. We could have said that ein shlichus a katan means he cannot be mamana shliach. But that definition is not going to cut the mustard here, because number one, the Gemara says that Zachin li'olam shalom b'fanav does not operate with regard to a katan, even though there's no need for minui, and chatzer doesn't operate for a katan, even though there too there's no need for minui. So the teretz to all this must be, and that's the logical conclusion, that a katan can't have shlichus. Because the whole mechanism of shlichus cannot operate on behalf of a katan, even if the katan would not have to appoint the shliach. So basically, what is zechiyah? Zechiyah is shlichus without a minui, but that's not going to help for a katan. Ein zochin lekatan. There's no zechiyah for a katan because zechiyah is mitam shlichus, and a katan cannot have shlichus, even though in the case of zechiyah you don't need a minui. Now, what we want to look at is a Rambam and a Tur. The Rambam is in the second chapter of Hilchos Gerushin. Let me get out of Rambam here. Omar Kishu Bari. So now he's lucid. Kisvu Tnu Get Ishti. The Achakach Nivas. Now Nebuchadnezzar lost. Mamtinin ad Shiyavri. The Kosvim Venostin Law. We can write the get and give it to Vein Tzarech Lachsav Molech. We don't have to go back to him a second time. Now that he's healthy again, is lucid, and ask him to appoint a shliach for the writing of a get.
Where's the text in Hilchos Gerushin?
Eric Beis Halacha Tesvav.
Beis Tesvav. Thank you.
Now, Kosu v'Nasnu Kodem Shiyavri. They wrote the get, and the Baal is Nivas. They shouldn't have done so, but they went in and they did so. And they delivered the get to the Isha. So the Rambam writes, Harei Zeh Posel. Now, the Rambam at the very beginning of Hilchos Gerushin tells us the secret that when the code word, that whenever he says posel, it means midrabanan. Whenever he says eino get, it means doraisa. That's just the modus vivendus. That's just how we have to operate in the Rambam Hilchos Gerushin. So the Rambam here clearly indicates that they wrote and delivered the get when the Baal is nivas. So he was lucid, what you call a pikeach, when he appointed the shliach. But when the shliach delivered the get and wrote the get and delivered it, the mishalech was out of it. He was a shoter, or nivas in the Rambam's language. Midoraisa, the Rambam is saying the get is kosher. Why? Because before he was a shoter, he appointed a shliach. Now the shlichus operates on its own. And the shliach is a pikeach, even though the mishalech is now a shoter. So it comes out that according to the Rambam on a Doraisa level, the only problem with a shota, as far as get is concerned, is mini shlichus. He cannot achieve a mini shlichus. He can't get anyone to write again and deliberately get on his part, on his behalf. If we could obviate that problem, that he can't get a shliach, appoint a shliach, because before he went haywire, right, but before he went to the state of Shota, he was a Bikech and he appointed the shliach. Now the shliach is on his own. Again, all this is on a deraisa level. So that's the Rambam. So then it comes out, according to the Rambam, that a shota could have a shliach. He can't appoint a shliach, but he can have a shliach. And presumably, we're going to apply the same logic to a katan, because both shota and katan share the same issue halachically, and they're lavnei de'anim. And the Torah disagrees. So right now, I don't have access to a tour. I'd have to look it up on Bar Ilan because my tour is in a shul over here. And the tour at Even Ezer Siman Kuf Chaf Aleph writes that the get is possible midaraisa, which means that a shota cannot have a shliach, even though he appointed a shliach when he was a bari, but the shliach can no longer function and operate on behalf of the mishalech, who's now not royal l'shlichus. So it's not like the Rambam where the shliach is on his own, once having been appointed by the Baal. You have a tour by any chance? Or no? Now, let's go back for a minute and compare this Rambam in Hilchos Gerushin to the Gemara in Bava Metzia that Tosas quoted that a cotton cannot have a chotzer. Why can't a cotton have a chotzer, according to the Rambam? You don't need a minui, and even if the chotzer is operating as a shliach, a cotton could have shlichus no less than a shota could have shlichus. So I think that we have to answer here somehow that the minui upgrades the shlichus to a new level. In chotzer, you don't have that minui. So you have a lower level of shlichus, which cannot operate on behalf of which perishot the cotton. But in the case of the Rambam in Hilchos Gerushin, he appointed the shliach when he was a pikeach, and the minui somehow upgrades the shlichus to a new level. It's like smicha. You know, you somech yodav al rosh hapar, you somech yadayim al rosh hashliach, and that gives the shliach a new status. He can now operate on behalf of the mishalech once appointed, even if that Mishalech becomes a Shoter. So let's offer two definitions of Shlichus. One definition of Shlichus is what I call the extreme definition, Havaras Bailus, which means the Mishalech now passes on the entire kit and caboodle, the whole Bailus over this Chalos to the Shliach. The Shliach now takes on a new identity. But that's a very powerful and profound and extreme definition of Shlichus. A lesser chidush, less bombastic, is that the Shliach doesn't become a bailim. At the end of the day, the Shliach is just an agent for the Maisa to implement the Maisa, but the result of the Maisa, the Chalosa Maisa, is created by the Mishalech. So again, the first definition is that the Shliach now is independent of the Mishalech. He stands on his own 2 feet. That's called Havaras Bailus. He becomes the Bailim. Second definition is no. He does the Maisa, but he's always operating on behalf of the Mishalech. And the ultimate Chalos is created by the Mishalech. And then Afkamina is going to be 2 categories of Shlichus. One with a minui and one without a minui. When you have minui, then you have Havaras Bailus. And that's the Rambam's definition of Shlichus in Hilchos Gerushin. In a case where, as a Bari, he appointed the Shliach. So he already accomplished Havaras Bailus. Now the Shliach is on his own. And the Shliach, in effect, creates the Chalos. So imagine a case where a gadol became a katan. I mean, obviously that's not possible, but in a theoretical, if the gadol appointed the shliach as a gadol and then he became a katan, the shliach could operate on his behalf. But not so in the case of chatzer, because there was no media at all. Nor in the case of Zachar Li'olam Shalom Ufanav, where there was no media at all. And if there's no minui, then the shliach is just operating in terms of the technicalities, to create the mice. But everything else has to go back to the mishalech. But in this case, the mishalech is a katan. So therefore, Ein Zachin L'Katan, according to Tosfos, according to the Rambam, means that since Zechia works without Minui, it's that lower, less bombastic and extreme level of Shlichus, in which the Shlich is just really the arm of the Mishalech, but the Mishalech himself is the one who effectuates the Kinyan or the Chalos. And now the Mishalech is a Katan. So that can't work. Let's go on. Tosfos says, let me write this down for a second. Umiu beperkis kabel gitten daf samach dalin mit beis gabi tzror v'zorko egos v'notlo zochel yatzmo v'ein zochel acheret chefetz umachziro liachar shah zochel ben liatzro ben lacheret. So this is the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda Omer of Asi. Umashma the Hainu Midoraisa. Midaparich L'man the Omer Echad Zeh v'Echad Zeh Zochel Yatzmo v'Ein Zochel Acherim. So this is Rav Chizda in the name of Shmuel, that even when a katan reaches the level of nosim lo chefetz umachziro, nevertheless he cannot be zochel acherim. Now he the marimin al ma'aser sheni the mashma the zochel acherim midaraisa. Hodis nan ban izokim metzia ascherish v'katan yesh be'em gezel midivrei mipnei darkei shalom aval midaraisa lo. So again, on the one hand, it seems from Rimin al Ma'aser Sheni that a katan could be zochel acher midaraisa. On the other hand, from the sugya of Izakin, so you see the steer that Tosfos is raising here. On the one hand, the sugya in Gittin on Daf Samach Dalet indicates that once the katan reaches a certain level of maturity, which is called chefetz umachziro lachar shah, then everybody agrees that he's zochel yatzmo. And that's Doraisa. But on the other hand, Cherishot V'Kot Mitzia is only Gesel B'Divrayim. So Tosas answers, Das HaCheres Machit. Shine. So the cotton can't pick up a hefker object and be zocher on a doraisa level because there's no das acheres mach. V'hashta nicha hadi omer b'perek lulav v'arava sukkadaf memvov lo likni inchi lulave liyanuka the yanuka mikne kani but iknuye lo mach. The mikni kani afilu midaraisa yidei das acheres makno son. Zocher midaraisa. Lacherim l'Ravasi, even lacherim. According to Ravasi in the Masechet Sanhedrin. Uli atzmo l'kuli alma, even according to Shmuel. All right. So what we want to do now, B'Shuschem, is to take out a Gemara Bava Metzia, if you can get access to one. So before I ask you for a tour, all right, you don't have a tour, that's okay, but you should have a Gemara Bava Metzia somewhere, no? Ruvain, are you able to get a Gemara Bava Metzia? So see if you can find one. V'chein omer Rabba bar Bar Chana v'husha omei b'tzad sadeh. Esvei Rabbi Abba le'ula. Ma'aser Rabbi Gamliel v'skedim shal yibon b'sfina Rabbi Gamliel Iser shani yosid lamud nasul liyeshua makom muskalo Iser acher shani yosid lamud nasul liakiva ben Yosef kidei shizku b'ani makom muskalo. He Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Akiva, b'tzad Sadesh, Rabbi Gamliel hayu omdim. V'papama das acheres mak neshayim. All right, so we're looking now in Bava Metzia Daf Yud Aleph, and Reuven left, so I don't know. I can't even ask him if he got a Gemara because I don't see him here. Reuven, are you there? So the Gemara on, you there? Yeah, you have a Gemara about Metzia?
Yes.
Can you open up the Daf Yud Aleph?
Yeah.
This Gemara is the source for Das Acheres Mach. You see where it says V'cheina Omar Rabba bar Bar Chana v'husha omed b'tzad sadeu. Can you find such a thing?
Where is it?
On Daf Yud Aleph, Bava Metzia Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. V'cheina Omar Rabba bar Bar Chana v'husha omed b'tzad sadeu. Esvei Rabbi Abba le'ula. Maisa b'Rab Gamliel uzkenim. Shayuboim b'spina. So this is the sugya of Matnas Aniyim. So Rav Gamliel and the Zkanim are coming by boat. Amar Rav Gamliel, Isur shani osid lamud nasun leYoshua. Umakomo muskalo. The Isur Acher Shani Osid Lamud Nosin Lakiva Ben Yosef, Kadeshi Yizker Bo Laniyim Umakomo Muskalo. So again, what happens is that Rabbi Gamliel has a sadeh, and he's effectuating a kinyan chotzer remote control from the sfina. And he appoints these two colleagues of his, these two Tanoim, that's Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Akiva, as go-betweens to do a zchiyah for the aniyim. So Gemara asks this as a kasha, raises this as an objection to Rabbi Bar Bachana, because the Gemara asks rhetorically, V'chi Rabbi Yeshua Rabbi Akiva b'tzad sadei Rabbi Gamliel hayomdu. And you, Rabbi Bar Bachana, require Omei b'tzad sadei. Rav Papa Omar das acheres makno son shayni. Can you find a Rashi that starts with Rav Papa Omar? But you have to tell me, either raise your hand or something, I don't know. You have it? Reuben, you have it?
No, where?
John, can you tell Reuben where you found it?
Medium-sized lines, Vapava Amar. Not the skinny lines, not the wide lines, but the medium-sized lines. Beneath the Gemara.
Reuben, do you see it now? Rav Papa Omar?
Okay, so maybe I'm wrong. Yud Aleph, Amid Aleph, Amid Beis.
Oh, I said Amid Aleph, I mean Amid Beis.
That's right. Yes, I have it.
The whole Gemara is on Amid Beis, am I right? John, am I right that the whole Gemara of Rabbi Bar Bachana, who Omed Tzadei, is on Amid Beis?
Amid Beis, yes.
Yeah, I said Amid Aleph, sorry. So Rashi says, Li Olam, you have it? The Torah Chatzer Kano?
Yes. Yes.
Ve'afilu hachi lo tikshi li ula. The hadalo beinin hacha ome b'tzad sadeu. Ula also held that you needed ome b'tzad sadeu as a precondition for chatzer. Here we relieve or we remove that requirement, that t'nai of Omer b'tzad sadeu, mishum dedas acheres makno son, Sherav Gamliel hikno lahem metaltalin shahayu b'chatzer shalahem. The lomaf kera kanu. So again, if there was a kinyan from Hefker, then there's no das acheres makna. But here's a case where Rav Gamliel himself was makna them metaltalin in the chotzer. I'm not sure what he means by metaltalin. Maybe he means mos. I'm not sure. The lomaf kera kanu. V'nocha matana zu liknos. Afagavti eino made b'tzad sadei. So we have two categories of chotzer now. We thought until now there was only one category of chotzer, which is omei b'tzad sadei, which means that anything that comes into my chotzer, if I'm standing next to my chotzer, I'm guarding my chotzer and anything inside of my chotzer. That's called chotzer mishtameres. But if I'm not there, then the chotzer can't operate on my behalf. Here we see that even a chotzer she'ena mishtameres can be kona if das acher is mak. So if, let's say, a bird would fly into my chotzer and land on my chotzer, I can't make a kinyan on that bird unless it's a chotzer mishtameres and I'm standing omei b'tzad sadeu. But if you want to give me something and be makna me, I can acquire it in my chotzer even if I'm in the other side of the world and I don't need omei b'tzad sadeu and a chotzer mishtameres because it's das acheres mak. And now the rational mind is curious to know, how does das acheres makna circumvent the problem of chotzer she'ena mishtameres? If he's not omei b'tzad sadeu, he doesn't have a chotzer to be koneh. So what does it mean, das acheres makna? So I guess what we need to do here is ask the question, what is the status of a chotzer she'ena mishtameres? We thought it's nothing. But here we see that even in a chotzer she'ena mishtameres, you can be koneh something in your chotzer, but only conditional on das acheres makna. So what we have to do here is we have to analyze what's the chisaron, the deficiency of ena mishtameres, in a way that now we can understand how das acheres makna fills in and supplies that which is lacking, that which is a chisaron, which was deficient. So maybe we could say the following, that a chotzer, the eno omei b'tzad sadeu, it means that if you're not near your chotzer, then where's your das to effectuate a kinyan. Every kinyan requires das. So if a bird falls into my chutzner, flies into my chutzner and lands there, and I'm not near there, then where's my das to make the kinyan? Mashenkin, if I'm only b'tzad sadeu, so then the chutzner is grabbing onto the object on my behalf, and I'm standing near the chutzner, and my das could effectuate the kinyan. But in Eino Omer B'tzad Sadeu, I'm not there to effectuate the kinyan midas. But if somebody else puts the bird into my chutzner for the purpose of on my behalf, he gives me the das for the kinyan that I couldn't supply because I wasn't Omer B'tzad Sadeu. Hence, we understand why das acheres makne operates in a case of Eino Omer B'tzad Sadeu. But you know what? There's another way of approaching this. Maybe we could say the following, that a chutzner she'eino mishtameres, because he's not Omer B'tzad Sadeu, means that the chutzner is meaningless. Why? Because you need to have control over the object. Every kinyan requires that the kohen takes the object into his reshus. So if he's there, it's considered that the chutzner is holding on to the object on his behalf. And therefore it's now in the reshus of the kohen. But if he's Eino Omer B'tzad Sadeu, then the kinyan doesn't get off the ground because the chutzner is not holding it on behalf of the bailim. They're not anywhere to be found. So there's a lack of shmira. You need shmira in order to establish hachnasas hachefetz l'shuscha. The chutzner is, like, for example, we have a kinyan meshicha, where you take it into your reshus. And chutzner now becomes like as if it's grabbing onto the object in your reshus. But that only makes sense if you're there to watch the object. If the object is going to fly in and fly out, then you can't say it really landed in your reshus and you took it into your reshus. If that be the case, then das acheres makna makes a lot of sense. I don't need that the bailim stand next to the soda in order to create this spisa, this hachnasa l'shuso of the chutzner. It's enough that somebody else is putting it into my chutzner. When he puts it into the chutzner, to my chutzner, for the purpose of my acquiring ownership on it, he supplies the shmira. So the deficiency of Eino Omer B'tzad Sadeu is the lack of shmira, which means that there's no tfisas reshus. But if it's das acheres makna, now I have a chutzner that's holding on to it. If somebody comes by and wants to take it, then the makna is going to beat him up. Okay. So what time is it now? Oh, let's see if we can make any more progress here. I don't know. I'm tempted to want to go back to this sugi about chilul ma'aser sheni through a katan, but I think we need more time to work on that. Okay, then. So let's finish it up now, and we'll get back together. So wait a minute. Tomorrow is Thursday, so that should be good. That should be good. So tomorrow we have the Daf Yomi Shir at about 9:45. So instead of learning our Psachim tomorrow, we'll learn Sanhedrin. I mean, we could change that. I mean, you're with me for Psachim and Sanhedrin, so we can always decide which way we want to go. All right. So if you want to join me for Daf Yomi tomorrow, that's at 9:45. That's in Ivrit. And then at about, let's say 10:50, instead of 10:45 or 10:55, depending on if there are any questions after the shir, then we'll start Sanhedrin or Psach. Okay then? So I wish you a great day.